along the baking blacktop of old Route 66. Fleeing the hellscape of New Jersey, a stolen Pope-mobile sputters. Past the Saguaro, where tumbleweeds bounce and vultures circle. Lost in the desert due to an unexpected flat tire, low on fuel, out of supplies. The members of a secret society struggle to survive in a classic tale of man versus nature. All so they can scrutinize those films which are rumored to drive viewers to madness and dissolution. Draw closer, dear listener, let your trembling ears sup upon the eldritch knowledge of the Cinemania Society. We the fellows of the Lenses Hall do convene to judge if this fine cinema worthy of our esteem, or whether it should cast down worthless hokum. Let us don our feathers in judgment.
We the fellows... Oh.
The story so far. Fugitives fleeing following a far-flung French fantasy flick, the Cinemania Society is on the road again after viewing Rubber from 2010, in which a sentient tire rolls around making people's heads explode. It's a lot to take in, and we can't take much more. If that weren't enough to deal with, a group of angry motorcycle enthusiasts want to turn the society into so much roadkill. Having eluded pursuit this far, only one question remains. Was Rubber any good?
Is that giant slushy ahead? I'm feeling so thirsty, and slushy would really hit the spot.
No, that is another storage tank.
This dark desert highway is so dark, I can't make out a thing.
Hey, anyone smell anything? It's kind of warm.
Must be all the colitas. They rise up through the air around here.
Gotta love the cool wind in our hair, though, right? I mean, shout out if you see anything.
Must resist.
Up ahead, in the distance.
I see it. Shimmering light.
Well, I don't see shit. I'm so sleepy. Gotta stop for the night, guys.
Welcome to the Hotel Count!
No singing!
I think you're right, though. There's something coming up. Roadhouse, huh? We talking Patrick Swayze or Jake Gyllenhaal?
According to the map, we are 5 miles out of dead lizard gulch. Population unknown. Apparently, the statistics people will run out of town for witchcraft.
We have a map?
Of course, it was on the back of the fluff-covered sticky lozenges package.
I knew there were more lozenges.
Let's roll up and park these puppies.
I think you mean steel horses.
On a steel horse I ride!
No
Singing!
No.
Maybe they'll have some decent food. Well, at least edible food.
As long as it's on a plate and not actively trying to escape, I don't care.
Brother Daniel, when did you have time to get a "if you can read this, my tank light fell off my bike" t-shirt?
I didn't. It was just in the saddlebags.
Everybody, grab a drink and occupy a corner table. We have a film to judge.
Oh boy.
Cool. Beginning with you.
You, out of the booth.
Well, now that we're all settled with our cold beverages and our nibbles, let's begin my favorite part. Judgment. Zach, keeper of the door, begin.
Okay, out of all the movies that we have watched for all of our conclaves, I have found a redeeming value in every single one.
Really?
But not this one. This one fucking broke me. I hated it. I hated this movie so much that I looked up every synonym for hatred that I could find to describe how I feel. And I am now going to list them in no particular order. Hatred, contempt, distaste, disdain, loathing, abhorrence, distiltation, abomination, spite, disgust, hostility, exhortation, resentment, malice, bitterness, hatefulness, malevolence, meanness, revulsion, animosity, spitefulness, revulsion, malignicity. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I don't even fucking care. Malignity, repugnance, enmity, despite, scorn, antagonism, apathy, odium, maliciousness, aversion, indivisiveness, bile, despitefulness, horror, rancor, pique, vitriol, virulence, venom, jaundice, spleen, and cattiness.
So you're saying you just kind of dislike that. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, but did you feel chagrin?
The tires.
Prejudice, perhaps? Execration?
The tire's name was Robert. Or, in a French accent, when you say Robert, it sounds like Robert.
That's amazing! That's genius!
I fucking hate this movie to a level that I will never get to again, hopefully. This movie's not just guilty. This movie is a crime. I judge it guilty. Guilty, 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 guilty!
Robert the Tire has his own IMDb page. If you go and
Fuck him! I'm unfollowing.
it's for this movie.
Well, I want to tell you that that's actually not the worst thing in the world. In fact, it has long been said that the worst feeling you can inspire in an audience is indifference. And you my friend, are not indifferent to this film.
No. I'll say it did leave me with some strong feelings. That feeling is you remember that scene in fucking Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back when they go fly around the world to find everyone who talks shit about them online and beat the fuck out of them? I want to do that with the director and possibly the whole cast.
From the side of my face, heaving breath.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm pretty sure that that's what they were going for then, so bravo. Job well done. Assholes.
It seems a fair diagnosis that perhaps you, Brother Zachariah, have even yourself been subjected at least to some case of cinemania by this film, it sounds like.
Really, Daniel? You think so?
Lethal levels of cinemania.
Really?
You need to calm down or it's going to take you out, dude.
I'm gonna go over there and just hug a door for a while.
Does somebody have any ketamine? You can just put some ketamine into his drink.
Well, he has been, let's just remember, ever since the destruction of our beloved chapter house, he has been without his tinfoil hat this whole time. So,
Fair point. Well, speaking of that, Brother Daniel.
All Zach and no door makes
yeah.
Zach something.
yeah, so I had a pretty similar assessment of this film, except for kind of the exact opposite. I really like this film. I might be the only one of us who does. Still.
How dare you?
I dare. So it is not a perfect film, certainly.
That's an understatement.
I think there's some things that carries off better than others. It does feel, but I think that all of the lovely homages to all of these cliches and trope images to sort of convey the idea of a whole bunch of different horror tropes and thriller tropes is like sweet, like just like chef's kiss. I also think that the general commentary on cinema is like just a glorious Ouroboros loop of like self-reflexive bullshit, but it's even calling out its own bullshit. I don't think the movie's genius. I mean, it does feel a bit like like something you do your sophomore year in film school. Oh yeah, but I think it's like making fun of itself for being so far up its own ass, right? Especially when you think about some of the people who were involved in making this, and I don't mean whatever his bucket. What is his name? Quentin
Dupieux.
Yeah. whatever.
Quentin Dupieux?
Yeah, like I think he succeeds a little bit in spite of himself. I also still suspect that the actress who played the girl in the convertible might have just been dragged into it because she was his girlfriend at the time. And hopefully, when she's driving out of the movie, she's also like dumping him. I really that's my headcanon. So I won't belabor it. If anything, I'll probably offer counterpoints along the way. I was actually going to find this film innocent. Because I felt that it had circled its way around so many times to protect itself from Cinemania. However, having seen the impact that it had on our brother Zach, clearly it is guilty.
Thank you.
Proof's in the pudding.
Well, that definitely, you definitely have big feelings about it. Brother Hope, how about you?
Excuse me?
Brother Hope?
Proceed.
Excuse me? No? Sure, okay.
Auntie Hope. Proceed.
Yes.
Cinemania has taken him. He's gone. Well, I thought I couldn't hate a film more than I hated Angel's Egg, but this one got me. Angel's Egg at least had like some semblance of something. This just had nothing.
This had way more plot than Angel's Egg, to its detriment, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Less purpose. I don't know. It just seemed, it was so rambly. Like, I felt like I asked one of my preschoolers to make up a plot for a movie. They would have come up with something more coherent than this. In fact, they have. I have stories written by preschoolers that have more coherent plots than this film, and fewer layers of Truman Show Inception bullshit. I don't know. Anyways, I mean, it had a couple redeeming factors. Like, somehow the tire emotes. It was very mime-esque. Like, you can feel the tire's like emotions and like what it's trying to convey.
Yeah.
Through like subtle movements and stuff. Like when it turns around to face the police car, like as if it had a face. That's just strange, but I mean, I guess you had to do it. It couldn't just suddenly start blowing up heads without changing its direction, could it? I don't know. I only had a couple brain cells left, and this movie destroyed all of them.
You got a good point about mime. Yeah, that they mime that tire. It feels like a living thing.
The tire was the best actor in this film.
Yeah, that was its one like thing that it did well. There were some other strange things, like where you could tell that the director or writer or whatever was not a native English speaker, then at least not an American English speaker. Like, they said a few subtle things that just kind of didn't sound exactly right. Like the kid, like the uncle or dad or whatever said rubbish instead of garbage or trash. And unless you're an old lady, you don't say rubbish in the US. You know, when he asks him if he has homework to do, the kid says, "I'm on holidays." Like, also, we don't say that. We would have said on vacation or summer break. It kind of reminds me of the way Brother Andy speaks sometimes.
Oh, so it's kind of make me wonder if Monsieur Dupieux was also a read it as written kind of guy.
Yeah. Well, and another thing, the opening credits read as sort of like a tease, too. Like, all these names are just like a little bit off from famous names. Like Quentin, but not Tarantino. And then one of the actors was David Bowie. I'm like, you just get your hopes up for like somebody good, and there were other names that were just somewhat similar to famous people, and then they're not.
What a difference an eye makes, yeah.
Yeah, and the film just seems like it's gonna be funny, or like it's gonna be so bad it's good, or like there's gonna be some saving grace, and it just gets you right to the edge of your seat, and then there isn't. It's just like, it's like a cock tease of a movie. It gets your hopes up and then just leaves you hanging. So, yeah, for destroying what little faith I had left in cinema, and for making me finally maybe truly understand what Cinemania actually is, then I have to judge this film supremely, supremely guilty. And I know this judgment was quite rambling, but so was the film. Honestly, really, like, destroyed what little brain cells I have left. I'm so sorry. Somebody else go. I'm gonna just go sit in the corner and hug myself.
Brother Andy.
Well, we've heard that the worst thing a movie can do is make you feel indifference, and I, for one, felt difference. Brother Zach felt disdain and revulsion. I felt Dane and Vulsion. I can't say I hated the movie. I do believe that everything you need to know is explained to you in the first 5 minutes in the scene where the sheriff gets out of the car and directly addresses the camera and says, there is this thing called no reason, and it's an element of style that's present in all films, and this film is nothing but that, an homage to no reason as a stylistic choice, and that really is what this film is.
All style and no substance, right?
Exactly. It is an expression of that style, but nothing else, just that style, that concept of no reason, to see if style can work on its own. Quite. And ultimately, you have to decide right at the start, are you up for a film that's all style, or are you not? Do you need more than that? And if you're someone who can sit there and just let the style wash over you and ask no further questions, and enjoy the style alone for what it is, this film will work for you. If you're someone who requires something in addition to style, who needs, plot and depth and character and themes and meaning, you're going to find something lacking in this film. It's certainly very bizarre, and what it does do very well, I think. But what it doesn't do, it deliberately doesn't do. And so it's almost like a malicious slap across the face with what it's choosing not to do. It's a very self-aware film. It's a film about films and filming and about what it's like to have an audience and presumably what the people in the film and the director of the film think of their audience. And as a content creator, I can absolutely empathize with that desperate need to treat your audience like the dogs they are and feed them poison food and watch them all die. That absolutely spoke to me in a very big personal way. But ultimately, much like a car tire rolling through the desert, this film is something that has a missing place in the middle. Whether you can tolerate that or not is up to you. It's certainly caused so much of a ruckus among our own cult, it absolutely has to be completely guilty.
Well, it certainly is aware of its own self-awareness.
Poisoning your captive audience is something that should seem very familiar to you, Brother Andy.
What can I say? They obviously learned from the best.
I actually found this film pretty fun, mostly because it's great fodder for commentary and full of non sequiturs, and the whole meta watching your audience watch the film. I love that bit. It's very funny. Hell yeah! There was one point when one of the girls in the beginning is complaining someone else is talking during when they're watching, and we're in the middle of a fucking desert. Who cares?
Oh my gosh, that girl looked really familiar. So I pulled up her IMDb page, and she's one of those people that's done bit parts and a bunch of different things, but none of her parts are named. All of her parts are annoying girl, girlfriend, cheerleader, girlfriend, cheerleader, gymnast, flexible girl, cheerleader. Well, you've obviously been typecast.
I mean, listen, if you got a skill, you might as well go with it.
She's found her niche and slotted into it.
I also have to say that the non sequitur stuff starts with the car driving up the walk, and you're like, why are all these chairs out here? And it goes out of its way to hit every single one of them. You're like, weird. It's just fun to watch, even if later on you're like, why are there chairs there in the first place? Oh, maybe they were for the audience that was watching. Well, they're kind of dicks, I guess. In addition to that,
that's why.
Fuck
and
them.
so many of the things do kind of just barely connect,
barely
right?
makes sense,
all of these chairs are for the audience, but then they get smashed, so now the audience is really pissed off that there isn't a better seating arrangement, right? The kid drops the pizza, and then his dad, uncle, clone eats the pizza off the floor later, right?
Yeah.
And that's why, the few things that don't
drops
connect...
the pizza on the bloody, gory crime scene, too.
I know, right?
But it has continuity. I think that's the thing that's great about the movie.
Yes.
There's plenty of movies that think A point does not lead to B point. You may disagree with how it connects, but there are connections in this film. And so stuff like that, like the guy when the audience is sleeping and then the nerd shows up and he takes money out of all their pockets. Like, who the hell is this guy?
At first I thought they were dead, like from sleeping in the desert, or like they froze or something, and he's going through all their pockets, and then he's like, wake up!
I thought that was hilarious.
So you're saying with all that continuity, it's like a completely circular, flexible yet rigid structure just rolling along that has the ability to make people's minds explode, much like, oh my god.
I'll give you a great example. So early in the film, the tire explodes the bird, right? Later on, the boy is talking to the dad, and the dad's like, shut up, go get me a pizza. So the kid's coming back along the road with his bike with the pizza, and he sees the exploded bird, and he takes up the pieces, puts it on the pizza, right? He doesn't know that that was the bird that the tire exploded, but the audience knows, right? And then later on, when he gets back...
Yeah, he probably just thinks it's roadkill.
Exactly. He gets back to the hotel, and he drops the box when discovers the maid explosion. But then later, his dad picks up that box as it's eating the pizza that had the bird on it that was exploded by the tire when he gets exploded by the tire. That's like great continuity, right there.
It has the bird on the pizza and the maid's guts on the outside of the box.
Oh yeah, exactly. So like, I appreciate that kind of like linear like continuity in a film, even if it's so bonkers.
And it also
like
shows that the French will eat anything.
So, I actually loved, and the disdain for the audience is very obvious. I'm pretty sure that the nerd
And well-founded.
is a familiar to a vampire with a yes, master. Let me kill this turkey with this knife for you.
See, this is the one thing where I think sometimes the movie does fail. Like, is if you're gonna drop something, like you have a thing and then you drop it, and it's probably on purpose. It's meant to be like a stupid, random non sequitur.
Right.
They needed just a little bit more to make it clear that that was intentional. Just a little more. And that's where I think the movie does slip up sometimes. But
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I feel like the ending could have been really great if they'd made it a little more obvious what they were going with. Because a whole like a tire that reincarnates as a tricycle and then rolls down the road and like recruits an army of like psychokinetic vehicle wheels. Like assaulting Holly would be great ending for like a horror film, but they didn't quite push it over the line.
I mean, your budget runs out somewhere.
Yeah, budget runs out somewhere, but that would have been a great ending to like a regular horror movie. They just didn't quite reach it. So I would, if anything, say it's guilty because it had so much potential for being a actually funny, decent kind of horror film, and it just didn't quite make it. So I'm disappointed, and therefore have to judge it guilty.
Oh, well, excellent. Well, I suppose I'll have to my analysis of this is I feel like when I think about this, because I watched this some years ago, it sticks around in my mind like a dream. When I recall it, it feels like remembering a dream. And I realized that Rubber is a very rare example of a contemporary film in the French Impressionist style. Now, those of you who've taken a film history class will remember that French Impressionism is a sort of movement from the 1920s and 30s that was trying to create cinema that looked and felt like a dream.
Yeah, I remember.
One of the key examples that's cited when they talk about French Impressionism is the 1929 film Un Chien Andalou by Luis Buñuel and Salvador Dali. Now, I know everyone who's seen that movie still cringes at the razored eyeball used at the opening of the picture, but once you get past that part, and I fully acknowledge that is a hard part to get past, it's filled with imagery sourced from its filmmaker's dreams, like literal dreams that Buñuel and Dali had. And the story in that film flowed according to dream logic. So when people think about this era of film, they typically think about German Expressionism, which is the opposite to French Impressionism. That's the early silent horror films like Nosferatu or The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. That style that was revived by Tim Burton. Stylistic elements of it live on in modern horror films, but
Love that stuff.
yeah, I mean, French Impressionism was never really as strong as German Expressionism as an aesthetic movement, and it, faded away after about 1941 when Citizen Kane combined French Impressionism with German Expressionism and other aesthetic styles of other films that preceded it in one of the first examples of cinematic pastiche.
Oh, I thought it got replaced by Belgian decompressionism.
No. But Citizen Kane was one of the first examples of cinematic pastiche, which means that, yes, Orson Welles was his generation's Quentin Tarantino, but I don't know whether he liked feet. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Rubber is, in my opinion, an authentic contemporary example of French Impressionism, not just because the director is French, but because it skillfully uses dreamlike imagery and dream logic. Stuff just sort of happens in a disjointed and disconnected way that kind of makes sense if you don't think too hard about it. Differently from the actual era of French Impressionism, it doesn't have that gauzy look that's used, like with Vaseline lenses and fog filters, and anyway, that kind of crap's used in romance films, not so much anymore. But what's more, also, Andalusian Dog did not bother with too much of that kind of thing anyhow. Quentin Dupieux went for the kind of dream with harsh lighting and bleak landscapes, which are dreams of a type that I have certainly had. I can recall lots of dreams where I felt like I was under glaring, harsh sunlight, and I was having a hard time keeping my eyes open because of the glare. That's a dream I've had a lot. So another film that stands out in my mind is one of the few contemporary examples of French Impressionist cinema was 2000's The Cell, starring Vincent D'Onofrio and Jennifer Lopez's buttocks.
That was the first movie that ever gave me real ick. I don't really care for horror films or thrillers or anything because I don't really have any suspension of disbelief. I'm like, that wouldn't happen, and it doesn't actually scare me. That one freaked me the fuck out because the kid came from an abused home and all this, and that stuff that could really happen. I mean, except for the sci-fi parts, but that film was fucked up. Really fucked up. Also, I was 10 when I saw it and probably shouldn't have seen it.
Well, I mean, The Cell had to kind of, because it had better cinematography and big names, it had a budget that demanded it concoct a bullshit story that featured, serial killers and federal agents and experimental dream technology to justify why it's using dreamlike imagery. It didn't just go for dreamlike imagery and dream logic. Rubber didn't have that same problem because it had a fraction of the budget that The Cell had. So he was able to go full hog impressionist with it. And yeah, it throws some similar concessions to its audience with that monologue at the beginning about stuff happening for no reason, but even that kind of feels sort of dreamlike. It sets it up, and there's a lot of layers to it, but ultimately I think this one can be classified as impressionism. And yes, before you say it, Zach, I could include 1984's Dreamscape in the general idea of impressionist film, but that dragged us off into analysis of it and the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and I don't have time for that shit. So for reviving French Impressionism, for being insufferably avant-garde, and for every reason that we've listed so far and in the list of charges, I vote this film guilty.
It sounds like you're saying that this film is rubber and you are glue, and it bounced off us and stuck to you.
Yeah. Well said, yes.
If I may just put a slight little thing in, for the low budget they were, I really thought the special effects worked. When the rabbits or whatever explode, it's gross. When the tire's sleeping, you can almost see it breathing. The sound it makes when it's going to explode someone sounds kind of like a car engine. I feel like what they did well.
Oh yeah, they only used effects if they were going to work perfectly.
Yeah.
Their effects were effective.
Well said, Inquisitor Ethan. Quantity over quality, I always say.
Yeah, I know. I really like to chew things over when I'm denouncing. You can tell a lot about someone by how they denounce.
Yeah, maybe next time we can watch something a little bit more, normal. And would it be too much to ask that no one tries to kill us all?
No. And yes.
Guys? Did those guys who just came in look familiar to you?
The traveling salesman and the woman half his age, who is definitely not his wife.
No.
The group of charity workers that no one dares make eye contact with in case they start making a speech and asking for money.
No, not them.
The 1978 roller disco dance-off championship team?
No. But good eye. I barely spotted them there.
Some people think I have two.
A barely dressed group of vicious killers who are covered in cactus debris and dust and look like they're about to make a whole scene?
Bingo bango. Familiar, right?
Familiar how? You Americans are all so bland and generic.
Well, imagine them way neuter and on the bikes that we stole.
You've got to be kidding me.
The cinema assassins have found us.
Wait, those guys are cinema assassins too? I thought they were just pissed because Zach robbed them.
Looted.
Murder hobo's gonna murder hobo, am I right?
Damn straight.
Immaterial! Hide!
Get out of the way. I'm under here. Move.
Here I come! Here I
Oh,
come!
hiding
You're
spot.
big enough for them.
Hey.
Clark Nova, here, in with me!
Hey.
Pizza delivery. Who ordered 2 pies of intense pain topped with brutal maiming?
Unnecessary imagery, but I'll allow it.
Horse-ass face, piss wagon. Go serve those tables over there.
We came to kick ass and visit the local tourist attraction. And there's plenty of time for tourism later. The gift shop don't close till 7.
I'll cover the entrance. Goat cheese. Kevin, you go check out the kitchen. No shortage of sharp, pointy implements in there, just like a cactus patch. It's payback time.
Hey, Daniel, you have a dark partner with Clark Nova. Can you just take care of these guys?
I'm not taking on 600 bikers.
4, sir. 4.
Clarky, do it for me.
No can't do it anymore. Those cowboys are meatheads and I'm watching my cholesterol.
What a grateful little shit. To see if you get another bump.
Think everybody. They may have muscles, violence, weapons, lethal cunning, and reflexes sharpened by a life of harsh criminal activity. But what do we have?
I have a tequila sunrise. Oh, and a little paper umbrella. Jam it in their eyes.
Besides that,
Here. I found this porcelain donkey with a sombrero. I think it's supposed to add a little charm and local flavor to this foul bistro.
yes, good. But I was hoping we could find stuff around here that might actually help the situation.
My advice is to stay away from the buffet. I've never seen salad sweating before, and those tiny sausages look fiendish.
Ah, perfect.
My porcelain donkey takes its hat off to you, Inquisitor Ethan.
Finally, you recognize my genius. This roadhouse breakfast bonanza could stop a rhinoceros on a skateboard up a steep hill.
And then we just sneak out while the toilets get demolished. Brilliant.
We don't have much time. There's only so long those guys will be distracted by a sudden roller disco dance-off duel.
Oh, is that why they're dancing?
Yeah, and how the hell did that happen?
They're dancing because fuck you, that's why.
Are we really gonna do this? Speaking from experience, it's no fun being on the wrong end of diabolical poisoning.
What's past this prologue?
Oh, fuck you.
Let's see here. Slick, glistening oatmeal, diesel-flavored lasagna, sprinkling of generic ham-style meat powder protein flakes. This should work. This should work. We just need an entree.
Here. I grabbed this undercooked pork chop off the grill when the line cook wasn't looking. I think he was entranced by the middle bars of Boogie Wonderland.
Ooh, that means short and long-term complications.
Fingers crossed for brainworms.
You're assuming those idiots don't already have them.
Fair point. Now we just need to set the hook.
Leave that to me. When you're looking for the best underhanded compliments and manipulation, I'm your man.
Manipulation? You can say that again.
Manipulation.
I still haven't forgiven you for that spiked tea incident.
If we get out of this alive, I owe you a can of Diet Coke, okay?
Bastard.
Why is Andy just walking up to them?
Like all British people, they has the ability to make people think he's a butler.
Who's this guy?
Something about him makes me feel like he's gonna get me little sandwiches with the crust cut off.
Gentlemen, clearly you've had quite a difficult time of late, and so I simply insist that you enjoy some delicious refreshments before you continue with all the pounding and pummeling and whatnot. Toodle-pip and what and tally-ho.
Sounds fair enough to me.
Oh shit, is we gonna have little sandwiches and shit?
That is, if your boss doesn't mind.
Oh yeah, Boneskidoo, get over here and try this. It's all so fancy. That's one thing the elves whippoorwills are, is fancy.
You know what, Jeeves? You're all right.
Ha! Behold! I was never, in fact, an amiable and hyper-competent 1920s manservant who happened to wander by at all.
We's be fools, thee. This day just gets better and better. So now, who wants to die first?
My guest.
Smarmy city boy, you think sarcasm will save you. Horse-ass face, I don't feel so good.
Ew, I'm gonna need a minute here. Bathroom? Oh, no. Where's the bathroom? This here's an emergency.
What the hell is going on?
Better run along, little doggy, for you can't walk.
You're gonna pay for this.
When we get done here, you instead.
Sorry, boys. You always gotta know what your door situation is.
Where does the Cinemania High Council find these guys?
This plan worked, but the stench is starting to turn my stomach. Let's get out of here.
Looks like once again the Cinemania Society have triumphed. We're an unstoppable force. It's like some kind of psychic sentient car tire. And yes.
Or inscrutable food poisoning.
I guess the movie was right. Poison buffet really is the way to go.
Huh. That reminds me. That movie was all messed up. I just don't get it.
Look, it's a simple story. Nerd meets audience meets tire meets girl. Everyone stays at or near hotel and watches TV while a metatextual narrative about the nature of watchers and watched plays out in a haunting tableau involving poisoned food before the final assault on the world of man. Been there, seen that, bought the Lego set.
Truly a tale that has been told 1,000 times. So, what now? We've got nothing but the open road ahead of us. Time to head back to civilization?
I have a better idea.
That episode of the Cinemania Society was written, produced, and performed by Andy Slack, Andrea Palladino, Daniel Scribner, Zachariah Burks, Hope Bravo, and Ethan Ireland. Sound design, mixing, mastering, and editing by Ethan Ireland. Music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Sound effects and incidental music courtesy of Epidemic Sound. Visit our social media feeds on Facebook, Twitter, X at TCS_Cinemania, Instagram at the Cinemania Society, and Reddit at r/the Cinemania Society. If you like what you've heard, please visit us on Patreon and send us a donation because making podcasts is not free. Seriously though, we don't disrespect you by running commercials, and we put a lot of effort into this show. We're worth at least the price of a cup of coffee, come on. The Cinemania Society is a product of the Cinemania Society, LLC.